in that, but I always felt that there was a piece missing. And the piece was the spiritual part of the human person and the deep yearning for that. And how do we nurture our souls and how do we walk that spiritual walk? And so I began seeking around for ways that I could be trained, because as a Catholic I can't be ordained, ways that I could go into ministry, and I had a particular interest in women's issues. And so the Pastoral Counseling Education Center, which is still here, and anybody can apply and go through those courses. So I did a 2-year residency with them, and I was among all ordained ministers are there. So that's really what most ordained ministers go through, and you learn about how to counsel and be pastoral caring in various situations and so forth. So along with that, I also entered Ignatian Spirituality Formation, which I don't know if everybody knows about that. It's a Jesuit, comes out of the Jesuit tradition, Ignatius Loyola, you can Google, and in the 1500s, and he developed the spiritual exercises, which are still alive today. So you can go online and you can look him up and you can read the spiritual exercises. And for those of you who are practicing Lent, it's really wonderful to be able to get on that line because they lead you through the seasons. And you know, the basic thing is that God is in everything. God is everywhere. God is in our human activity. And so how do we open ourselves to that possibility of every encounter where God is actually active, vibrant, speaking to us, seeing the face of God in all things creation and in human encounters and so forth. And so that's what his spiritual exercises are. There's also a piece in that spirituality about discerning. You know, how do we discern where God's will is for us? How do we discern our path? How do we discern? So that's what spiritual direction and what I do in that piece, you know, is to help folks kind of find their way, and with students to find meaning and purpose. You know, they fall through the cracks and they think that it's the end of the world, you know, and they can't see that sometimes those crisis moments are moments where they make big discoveries about themselves and something that is greater than themselves, which of course is God. So those are the pieces I had put together in my life as my training as a pastoral counselor, which is very different from therapy. If I get a person that comes to me and wants guidance in pastoral help and in spiritual direction, if there are some like really deep-seated therapeutic issues, I send them along and refer them somewhere else. But I will continue to go with them and pray with them and help them in that biblical way. The most interesting experience I've had in the last couple of years is I had Jewish women who were coming for spiritual direction because the Jewish community has now begun to understand that in the Jewish faith, that was one of the gaps, you know, was helping people. It's like any organized religion. We all go through the rituals, we go to church, we listen, you know, but how do we practice and that sort of thing. And so pastoral counseling is a great way to be with people and to speak about and to journey about their faith and to allow the Spirit to really work in those conversations. I always say, you know, that's why if you go to my office, you'll see a big lighthouse. That's sort of the way, you know, it's just helping them. Every one of us know, we all know what we need to do. You know, sometimes we just don't know how to do it, or we can't discern when to do it, you know. But the light shines. I just tell people it's already there. I just help them see it more clearly and with greater wisdom. So that's part of what pastoral counseling does. And so the framework is that we are the presence of the continued covenant love that God has for us, each one of us here. We are God's presence in the world. And so we participate as that light. We help continue that covenant love through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus. So that's who we are as pastoral presence. Matthew is an RCC in our community. He's in he's a campus minister as well as in the Commons. And so when I trained them, I said, you know, you're not going to fix anybody, you know, but you're going to be a pastoral presence. You're going to be that life that you bring into that community Whereas at some point in time, they're going to recognize that you're there all the time, you're easy to engage, you're not pushing anything, and after a while, you're going to start opening up and say, why are you here? Why do you even care? That's the bottom line. Why do you care? And what is it that you have within you that continues to draw you to that? Why do we care? So whether you are a professor, a staff person, or a campus minister, and you're our wonderful Vicki here, what is it that continues to draw? Why do I care? So someone in my department, a student in my class, suddenly God begins to give you eyes to see in a way that you've never seen before. There's something going on with that student, or there's something going on with my colleague. There's something different. There's something I can perceive is wounded in that person. So now we're struck with, okay, because I am the covenant love of God, how do I reach out? What do I say? What happens if that person comes to me? What are the kind of questions I can ask? So I hate doing this, but it's the best way I know to kind of guide our conversations. Here is sort of an understanding of what pastoral care and counseling is, and what does it mean when we say we care. That's the number one question when people say, I'd like to be a help to someone. Why? What is it within you that draws you to that deep caring? What is it within you that says, I want to enter into a relationship where I continue to be of support, or I can continue? And it's because Christ is alive in you. You're looking with eyes, you're looking differently. The way that you're looking at the world is different, and so you're affected, by all of that. So it's defined as the whole event of Jesus' death, life, death, and resurrection, culminating in the coming into being of the church. It is the type of caring which can be defined as an expression of the life of the Christian community. And that, of course, is very biblical. See how they love one another, see how they care. Or of a person or persons who represents the community when it acts out God's purpose of life, death, and resurrection. That's David Switzer, who used to be a professor actually at Perkins. So here is sort of a primer, and then we're just going to kind of talk about, so as we go through this, you have a question or how you have something you would like to know more of, then just interrupt and we'll kind of talk together. So someone comes to you. So, all right, Brandy, a student, somebody, Professor Sticker, do you have a minute to talk with me? And you say yes, and you invite them to come in. I'm in a public sphere, even a touch, you say, I know something's going on, or how are you doing? Suddenly they start crying, right? Tears start coming, they start getting emotional, and so it's awkward because now you're in a public space where someone has, they have touched that. And sometimes you need to know when people are wounded or people are doing something, tears come unexpectedly. They crying, this feels awkward, and that sort of thing. So for those of us who really, why do we care? And we develop that caring kind of persona wherever we are, people will start coming to you. So you start thinking about that. Where are the boundaries, what's appropriate, what's not, and how we deal with that. So we have to receive what the other person offers, and sometimes it is unsettling. If I meet someone, and it's happened, that I know has been going through a difficult time, but I have no idea what the situation is. And suddenly they just kind of blurt it out. Their whole life just comes out, well, I'm in the midst of going through a terrible divorce, and my life is just all broken. I don't know what I'm going to do. We're standing in one of these areas, and suddenly it's just kind of gone up. Or just recently, I heard one of the professional colleagues that I worked with was going through a hard time. We're at a reception, right? And I go, how are you doing? Well, he just started telling me this whole bunch of stuff, and I'm thinking, well, that means that they've been keeping it quiet. But also, it means that he knows I'm a chaplain. He knows I represent something I represent God officially, I guess. And so that happens sometimes. People suddenly do that. They attach to you as a chaplain. They attach to you for some way. And so when you ask that question, suddenly something that they haven't told anybody just starts kind of, so you're kind of heddling. So you have to kind of think quick, where you are and kind of what's kind of going on. And so it can be unsettling and it can be awkward. So that's why preparation, I have to prepare myself every day before I come here, because I never know who I'm going to encounter and what I'm going to encounter.
Yeah.
Right? And the personal crisis that people are going through are huge sometimes, and sometimes you can't do anything but listen. There's not much you can do. So I just gave you some suggestions. I can see that you're upset. Sometimes I let people talk for a long time, and then I said, I want to be of help to you. So I need to know what you need. Tell me what you're needing. Sometimes, with students, say, I just want to be here. I just want to talk to you, or I just want a safe place, and that's all they need.
Right.
They're not looking for advice. They're not looking for you to fix anything. They just need to be with someone they know who will listen to them. That's it. And amazingly, especially when I work with students, they actually find their way out of a lot of things alone. Because you kind of empower, you kind of give them sort of a lift up, pray with them. I'm a big hugger, so I hug Matthew, I hug every time.
Yes.
And so when, there are boundaries, I said, not me, I've been here a long time. That's awesome. Don't tell me that.
Don't tell me that.
I hug, but I ask, if a student, particularly our male students, I'll say, can I have a hug? Well, they hug long. They love
their mamas.
Yeah. They love that hug. They love, so we can't be afraid of that, You need a hug. Can I hug you? It's amazing that most people say yes, But sometimes I can tell not even to ask, so you have to kind of discern that too. But, so that's one of the things I had to learn through the years, is those boundaries,
Right.
about hugging and touching and all of those sort of things and how to do that. So over time, I've just realized in my own personal experience that persons do want to be touched, whether it's the hand, or whether it's stopping during the day, you're noticing you've talked to someone, what their personal crisis is. You don't have to have a big conversation, but you can pass by, give them a touch. How are you doing today?
Yeah.
How are things going? Or, I want you to know that I'm really praying for you. That sort of email, if it's a colleague, someone that you're close to. But particularly, I think students recognize the gentleness of your presence. And so, who is that we're encountering? They're encountering Christ in us, and we're encountering Christ in them. The suffering Christ, and suddenly your mind just fills with all of those examples. And so I trust. Sometimes words come out of my mouth, and where did that come from? And so I truly believe that the Holy Spirit gives us the knowledge. I believe the Holy Spirit reveals to us in words and in presence of other people who are suffering in some kind of way. We have some kind of an inner knowledge, and I don't mean knowing all, but we know the questions to ask. We know how to be present in that situation. I've been with people who were dying at the end of death, and I see families, that are all kind of surrounded, and we're there, and it's a hard time. It's a hard time helping them to be able to say goodbye to their loved one. But always what they say is, I've never felt the depth of the love that I feel during this moment. So death becomes a sacred time. Why? Because the kingdom is there. The door is opening. We feel it. We experience it. And so helping them experience that and being present to that. So when I'm talking about that kind of that inner knowledge, that's, you just kind of know, and you're able to say, it's time to let go, or it's time to, the time is close, and let everybody kind of compare. And it does, it becomes kind of, do we cry? Of course we do. But it becomes a deeply sacred moment. And I think that's a gift. I think that's the gift the Spirit gives us when we deeply care. We find out, why do we care? What is this deeper yearning to be present in times of healing, in times of personal crisis? I think that's the gift that those of us who are called to care, and whatever we are. So, hugs and a touch. Make wholly welcoming any boundary space. I have time for you. I'm here to listen. So making sure that you do have the time. If someone walks in my office at 20 of 10 and I know I have an appointment at 10, I respect the 10 o'clock appointment and say, I've got 20 minutes, let's make another appointment. Or if they're really, really upset, I'll tell Melissa in our office, tell someone that I'll be like 10 minutes delayed. You have to learn how to do all that. But even in those workspaces, being able to discern what is our boundaries and what are the boundaries we want to have. Now, if I have a student who keeps coming and coming and coming and coming and coming and doesn't make any kind of a move forward in whatever it is, I have to start seeking some resources to help them get out of that. So for the person who cares, sometimes we think we can just do it all. It's because we love and we want to be Christ at that moment, but sometimes we're limited. We have limitations that we cannot, we cannot fix. Students who come to me and they're upset because they've had something with their professor or they're in some kind of a dilemma, I can't fix that. They can. I can help them and fix it by going to see their professor. What kind of conversation do you want to have? What is it you're needing from that professor? What is it? And oftentimes I'll get a response from that professor that I had no idea. I had no idea that what I said in class or that comment that I made, had any kind of an effect. When I was a sophomore in college and was not doing well in one of my philosophy classes, never could understand philosophy. Anyway, I was sitting there thinking, where am I going to use that? Of course, I eventually found out I would. And I would never do well in my grades, never. I couldn't, D's, F's. And so I would try to sit in the last row of the class, right? I went to a Jesuit college. Girls were in the minority. We were just getting co-ed. So I would sit in the very far back, hoping that he would not notice, right? Mm-hmm. And, you kind of slunk down and so that they won't call. And he'd always say, my main name's Haydell. He'd say, Miss Haydell, do you want to stand up today and explain the metaphysical whatever? And it was the most humiliating thing. And I would stand up and I'd say, I have no idea, Father, but you're coming to Jesuit school. I have no idea, Father, what you're even saying. What would they do? All chuckle and they would all kind of laugh, And I would sit. And so I decided I'm going to make an appointment and I'm going to see him and I'm going to tell him I'm just not getting it, Mm-hmm. So I made an appointment to go and see Father Cooper. And I walked in and told him all this stuff. And he said, well, actually, pretty girls like you should be married and having children and not getting an education. Now, y'all have to realize that was a long time ago.
Unfortunately, that still happens.
Well, it absolutely affected me. So what did I do? I left school after my sophomore year and got married. Not that was a mistake, because we've been married for a very long time. But anyway, that stayed with me forever. So I never thought I could ever be educated, or I never could be a smart ass, or I could ever do anything. And years later, of course, I went back to college and did my degree, and I was at a retreat, and I saw this old man walking down the hall. It was Father Cooper. So I said, Father, I know you probably don't remember me. And he looked at me and said, I remember you. And I said, I remember the day I went to see you and you said to me, He said, no, I couldn't possibly have said, you were one of my favorite students. I said, well, really? I said, well, you gave me F's all the time. He said, I didn't give you F's, you You got And I thought to myself, that's supposed to help me. But anyway, suddenly you've got the information.
Yeah.
And so the next time you see, they won't even look at you.
Mm.
You know, they won't. They don't want you to be connected. They don't want you to come by and say, how are you doing? You know, because they suddenly, for some reason, like that person at the reception, you know, I'm sure as he left, he thought, why did I do that? You know, why did I just spill everything? So sometimes we don't know what's happening, and you just happen to be the caring person, and so they start kind of just saying things that they wish. I call it like they emotionally undress themselves, and so they're naked before you emotionally, so they will avoid you afterwards. They will, but now you have the information.
So what do you do in that situation?
Well, usually I just wait because it's their time. They did it. They know I have it. I used to say it's, particularly when I was in church work and did pastoral counseling in the context of a church. I'm worshiping with those people. I'm doing all of those kinds of things. They know I have I call it a secret. I have one of their secrets, you know. But nobody else in the community knows, and they might be someone who's a leader, someone who's, you know, really, has leadership positions and stuff, and so they get concerned about that. So that's when, boy, confidentiality is like big time. You gotta hold it sacred, and you have to just hold on to it, and they may never ever come back to you and say one word, you know. But I was always loving, and I was always open, but I never asked. You know, you just can sense it. I just think I need to throw that out because I do think sometimes, particularly among our colleagues, sometimes I think they can emotionally undress themselves when they say, you know,
They weren't ready.
Yeah, they weren't ready to say that, nor were they in a place where they wanted you to know that. You know, so you have to kind of pretend, you know, and not do that. You know.
I think I've seen the opposite happen too that I struggle with sometimes. It's like someone shares something, they feel really close connection with you, and it's kind of like you gain a new best friend, kind of, and so it can be either just a continual coming to you for those things, or a continual reaching out, or just like it can be a situation where I know a lot about this person, but they really don't know a lot about me because most of my relationship with them is
that way, yeah.
One-sided, you know. Just, and I don't like to think about it that way, but I mean that's the reality of it, and it's I guess I struggle sometimes with like, how do I best help this person? You know, I want to show that I care. I want to show that I'm available to a certain extent, but there's clearly like an attachment that's starting to happen here.
Dependency?
Yes, exactly. Just a codependency thing, you know.
So think about it, Matthew. You've done a lot of work with students and prayed with them and engaged them. So instinctively, you know, you think about that. I'm in a situation where obviously someone's really depending on me for everything.
Right.
And wants me always to be present. So what would you think would be a good plan for you? And as you think under the spiritual mantle, you're not a therapist,
Right.
You're not doing any of that kind of work, but you can sense that somehow this person, because some particularly students, they'll think their whole lives depend on you. I will only stay alive if you're there for me. I need you to be there for me. If you're not there, I will, you know, that's the scary thing when people get real dependent. So what do you think?
Well, particularly here, I found it really helpful to look at other resources.
Yeah.
And so and this happened even when I was a student in my undergrad. It's just I had to come to the chaplain's office and go meet with Dr. Shooter, and just say, hey, there's a student, you know,
Sure.
And learn about all of those things, which was hard for me too, because it was just wanting to really help this person, but it was just a constant. And even after post-college, like this same person, I had to refer to like a psychiatrist and even like say strong statements like, I love you, I care about you, but I cannot have another conversation with you about this until you make that call and go visit your psychiatrist and tell me what your psychiatrist
great.
is like. And it was like, I've never been so, I was very direct too, because it was, I don't think I've experienced anything that extreme right now, but it's I think it's just the best solution I've seen is finding other resources.
And you were spiritually honest. Sometimes we have to say that. I cannot see you anymore. Or there are some folks that I think can help you, much better. Here at SMU, and this has worked well with me, if I have a student come to me and I can sense that there's some deep therapeutic issues, I will refer them and I'll say, give them permission. I'm happy to talk to your therapist after you're at CAPS, and we can share that information as we both together help you. And then the light goes on, and I can see, because I still like to be with you, but I can't help this particular thing. So I've had maybe 3 cases in the last couple of years where a therapist and I kind of worked together with a student, and it empowered them for some reason. They could come to me, we could have spiritual conversations about God in their life and about discernment of what the future is, making plans and those kind of things. And the therapist dealt with the family issues and all the other stuff, right? And that kind of worked. So here in this environment, we can still be the pastoral presence to a person. We can still refer them, and we still can offer to be a pilgrim to walk alongside. Because that's how I view myself in my work. I don't know all the answers. I'm just a pilgrim. I'm just here to walk with you. If I have a person coming wanting spiritual direction, I said, this is how I do it. You come, you tell your story, I tell my story. We just discover together how God's in each of our lives, and we will kind of walk together, pray together. That's it. Which is very different than if I go and say, look, I need to talk to you about what happened, and that sort of thing. So you have to make those kind of distinctions. So what you did was absolutely correct. And to think about, can I be a pilgrim with that person while they get the help? Now, if they're not getting the help and they're depending on you to provide that, that's what you have to discern. But that was a great answer. Perfect. Yeah, I cannot do it. This is who I am. I cannot do it. This is what I can offer you.
Right.
So that makes sense. So,
Can I ask a different question maybe about boundaries? And you mentioned earlier, sometimes someone will start crying during a conversation. And a few weeks ago, I actually happened to be with my cousin and a couple of other family members. My cousin is getting a divorce. It was a very bad marriage, and she's going through a lot of different things. And there was a group of us sitting there talking with her, trying to partly offer some advice and just assistance. And she started crying at one point. Of course, this is my cousin I've known my whole life, so it's a little bit different situation than someone you
don't really know.
Don't really know, or maybe a student comes to your office or something like that. But so I did at one point get up, and because we were sitting in different chairs, and she was sitting in kind of a big chair, and I just kind of put my hand on her back and just sort of stood there with her. When do you know when to allow someone to when do you sort of invade their boundary space, I suppose, when something like that? When do you let them have space to cry if that's what they need to do? And when do you sort of go up and just offer, a touch? Or, I actually did offer her a tissue. Like I'm at somebody else's house, I'm looking around, where's the tissue? And digging for a tissue. But how do you know when to do that? Maybe it's just a case-by-case discernment sort of thing.
If someone is really crying or really upset, or the one thing, a lot of questions I ask in pastoral counseling is like, when I go to a funeral, what do I say?
Yeah.
What do you have to say? A touch.
Yeah.
Right now, when I go to I'm at the age where I go to a lot of funerals. One of the most steps I started taking was I just hold a person and I look at them. Yeah. Sometimes they just want to look at you. They can tell in your eyes that you deeply care, that you're deeply sorrowful, in that holding, I'm so sorry, can I say anything? Things like, well, it was a blessing, I'm sure, that he's gone, he's something about. No, none of that.
Yeah.
None of that helps. So even touching, putting your hand on someone's back when they're crying, somehow it says to them, you're standing here with me. You don't have to have any words, but that touch somehow says you're standing with me. And she really didn't have to say anything to you, did she?
No, I think actually after she kind of, trying to remember how, I think she had talked for a few minutes and then,
Sometimes they are able to get, that person is able to get composure.
Yeah.
You know, just to know that touch is that they just suddenly, you're standing with me and they get composure.
Well, then it became funny. I was looking for a Kleenex, I couldn't find one, and her sister who was sitting was like, "Oh, you're looking for a Kleenex?" And then everybody started laughing. It was like, "Cause you."
Yeah. It's in moments like those where I'm just, Holy Spirit, what do I do right now? Holy Spirit, what do I do right now? And I did have an interesting experience last week. I'm on my way to the gym just to work out, and a student that I've seen on campus, and I don't know where I've met her, I don't know that I've met her. Anyway, she abruptly stops me, like right by the big horses statue. And so she's just like, "You're the RCC and Mary Hay Pink Shot." I mean, like, it startled me. I was like, "Yes, I am. How do I know you?" You know? And she was an RA elsewhere, and I mean, just spilled
Spilled it
and
out.
just like needed someone right there in that moment. And I'm just like, "Okay, Lord," you know, like what's the best thing to do right now? And it wasn't really uncomfortable for me. I think I realized that's what people are. It was right out there in the open with everything, and it's just like, and the struggle too within being an RCC and knowing like there's protocol for things. Like one side of my brain is like, okay, I have to be prepared to hear something I might need to report this certain way. Like,
That's true.
I'm always like, what do I do with this piece of information? You know, that's constantly something in my head. But I mean, she, in a lot of the situation, she had already taken the steps and
And
done what she needed to do. And I had to ask a few questions to make sure that was happening. But I was like, okay, really? She's done everything she needs to do. She just needs someone to listen to. And she let me pray over her and such. But it was just bizarre. I was like, I don't ever recall meeting her. And I don't know how she knows me, you know, but it's just, I think like you just said earlier, it's just, somehow even when you're just showing up, you know, where consistently where you are, it's like once people just start to recognize you, and it's
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was definitely one of those, Lord, I don't know what the best thing is to do. Right? I was still kind of startled, you know, but
I know, like, it's come up a couple different times, you know, that things are being shared in very public places. One thing that I've done is when I recognize somebody's kind of going deep with something and it looks like they're not about to stop, I just ask if we can just kind of walk over to the side, like just to go someplace just a little bit more private, but still out in the open, so you don't have to worry about anything inappropriate happening. But just kind of going off to the side to give that person a little bit of space. And if there's, I was talking to a woman just a few days ago who had never really talked to me before. We go to the same church, but she hasn't really, we just haven't really connected in the past. And she was sharing some really deep things, but also really concerned, you know, having a lot of trust issues. She's like, you know, I just don't know, like I've been hurt in the past, and maybe you'll do the same thing, blah, 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 but still feeling compelled to share these things with me. And so before she went any further, before she actually revealed anything that she would be uncomfortable with, you know, she would feel like she could be hurt by, I just asked her right then and there, it's like, can we just pray and just ask the Lord just to kind of seal this space up and to give you, you know, for her to seek direction in terms of what she should be sharing with me. Not that I felt any concern. I mean, I felt like she could share whatever she wants with me, but for her to know that it's okay. So we just prayed, and you know, I just asked God just to make it clear what she should be sharing and what she shouldn't be. And you know, this is something I pray in my inner healing sessions. You know, just to make it clear that whenever we walk away from the situation, that I don't pick up anything with me that doesn't belong to me, that she doesn't take up anything that belongs to her. Just to not be, it's more just to remind ourselves, or like that, to recognize that that is possible, that it's okay to kind of lay it on the table, but no, I don't have to walk away with her stuff, and I'm not going to. So that's been helpful.
That's good.
That's a good way of thinking about it. And it's back to, you know, the boundary, you know, that we try to establish. It's also about the spiritual undressing or the emotional undressing.
Yeah.
That's the part we discern. They don't discern that because they're in the midst of it. So we're the ones that have to listen intently. That's great. So you gave her that opportunity to stop and to reflect. And that's a great idea, you know, to do that. So let's just stop and pray.
I've had to do that a few times because there are a few people that, you know, they know me as as doing inner healing, so they feel like they technically can share whatever they want with me, and I technically have to maintain confidentiality, but on the other hand, they may not know me well, and they may be like, but I've had other people hurt me, so you may do the same thing. You'll go on and tell all these other people these
that's
things.
true.
And so, you know, that's just where it's like, okay, Lord, you decide what needs to be said now, because you know what everybody's ready for. And that just helps them to just kind of calm down, reassess, and they still wind up sharing, but at least it's not in this frenzy of, I just have to get it out. It's more like I'm okay doing what I'm doing right now.
Right. Well, y'all are wonderful pastoral counselors. I'll call on you. Thank y'all for taking the time, and if ever I can be a help or just processing, sometimes I do that a lot. You know, Betty and I process a lot, go through things that we can, and I think that's where we're good at what we're doing. And experience, years of experience,
Right.
and listening to stories over and over again enable us and help us. You need to know that as the young man over there. Your experience will teach you and help you become better at what you do, you know. And it's not book knowledge. I mean, I have all the book stuff, but it's learning how to discern, how to nurture your own spirit, how to be able to listen to what is good and right, and how to recognize evil when it's before you.